Here at News Infusion, we don't waste time and we get straight to the point. So without further ado, this week we are addressing the journey through corruption. COVID-19 has highlighted various issues that society has not completely dealt with directly, such as racism, the digital divide, and the long trail of corruption.
I have therefore come to the decision to resign as President of the Republic with immediate effect.
Knowing that your former president, Jacob Zuma, has links to the Gupta family and had the power to appoint any finance minister at any time for the benefit of him and others, how does this make you feel as a South African? Session, what's your take?
Well, I honestly think it's important that the president is at the forefront of electing someone that's going to be an important part of a country. A finance minister is an important part, especially a country like South Africa, where we need a lot of finances as we are still a developing country. And I think it's important that the president has the ability to appoint someone, but he needs someone, a background staff, I think, to get someone who's able to fill that position, that has the knowledge, the integrity, that has the capability of taking on such a big role and not having other influences. And you said the Gupta family, like, I'm not related to them in any way. Let's just make that point now. But yeah, when you have influence like that in a country, it's not necessary, it's not needed for a country that's still developing. And I think it is important that the president has a vote of confidence in a person, but the person should be intelligent enough, have the knowledge and integrity to stand alone as a unit and not be influenced by anything else.
Yes, they need to be capable. Yeah. And Koketo, your take?
Well, first things first, you like it or not, politics affect each and every one of us, right? So I strongly believe that when it comes to like finances, as Session said, we are still a developing country. We have a lot of things we need to go through. Climate change right now is a huge challenge, you know. So there's a lot of things, and especially when it comes to like the finances of a country, we need someone that is really capable to actually be able to stand their ground and just they took an oath to stand with what you sworn. Yeah, so I think that's just, we need someone who's really going to stand their ground when it comes to finances, especially.
The terms of reference of this commission are to the effect that this commission was appointed to investigate matters of public and national interest concerning allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud.
Right. It's been 2 years since the commencement of state capture, and it's cost taxpayers 700 million rand so far. At the same time, the inquiry has brought to light important findings and has informed South Africans about what goes on behind closed doors. Could state capture be a turning point in history that inspires leaders of the future to conduct political, economic, and social matters in a manner that is transparent and moral? Ivanashe, what's your take?
My take is based on the fact that I'm just looking at how state capture, it's more like a TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that happened in the 90s, soon after we attained our independence. But if you look at it right now, nothing has much changed. There's still economical disparity. The black person is still treated like a pariah in their own land. So in my view, this state capture commission is just another charade, or should I say facade, to the people and also in the international community, saying that we are actually handling our own issues, but on paper there is much. Because I'm looking at it, let's take for instance, someone has been found, the commission finds the parties guilty. We're gonna look for at another 5 years or 7 years of legal battle back and forth. So doesn't impress me.
Okay, so you don't think it's effective and it's not a turning point in history for you. Okay, that's fair. Vanessa, your take?
For me, I just have to wait for the end result, see what happens exactly, because the state capture has been taking a while now. I think it started in 2000. 2018, and it's still going on today. So we just have to wait and see what happens, and from there we can make our own decision. Yeah.
Okay, so you're just going to wait it out, okay?
Yeah.
Right, based on what we have heard in the state capture, if you guys were Judge Zondo for one day, and after looking at some evidence, you're like, I'm going to make an arrest, who is the first person that you're arresting and why? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I'm arresting former President Jacob Zuma.
Mm-hmm.
I say you take the top shelf off and then the bottom shelf falls down. So you have to take a person who has the power has to take responsibility for what they do. So if you appoint someone in a position and that person is found guilty, you should also be guilty because you employed that person. And so it's always, I feel like people at the bottom are always taken first, but we should always take people at the top first because then it has that effect of going down. That's my take on it.
For me, I just have to wait for the end result, see what happens exactly, because the state capture has been taking a while now. I think it started in 2018 and it's still going on today. So we just have to wait and see what happens, and from there we can make our own decision.
Definitely like research when it comes to like the president, right? Okay, definitely would arrest President Zuma to start with. But I'm gonna say in Cyril's case, Cyril, on the outside, he looks like he's got everything covered, right? Or at least he's trying. Fine. I'm thinking this year, like in his presidency, I'm thinking most of the ministers are the ones that actually sort of like save us. I think to take out the root, just deal with those who are dealing with the root, right? So I think take out maybe one minister. I'd arrest one minister right now. I don't have someone in particular because they're actually the ones who. So like that's where the change starts, inside out type of situations.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely have like one minister. Just this year, I'd arrest one minister. So yeah.
Okay, so we have Jacob Zuma and one minister.
So I don't have a specific person in mind, but for me, it would definitely be officials that work behind the scenes. You know, the ones that don't get as much spotlight, because I'm sure they're the ones that are contracting with big companies for tenders that cost a high amount of, I don't know, like expensive tenders. So I think we really need to look at people like that as well. You know, also the president, but I don't think the president should only be the one to be arrested or investigated deeply. I think it's everyone that works behind scenes as well.
Okay, behind the scenes, Ivanashe.
For me, I would say the ministers who were running the portfolios. Former Finance Minister Melusi Gigaba, I think state capture happened whilst he was the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
He's the one who handled the finances of the country. If the country needed to do a certain particular project, they had to pass through his office. Why didn't, if you obviously he has internal or obviously through grapevine, he learns that there's something happening. I feel like he was supposed to have obviously leaked the information to the public if he didn't want to be found wanting. So the one who had the money, the one who controlled the money.
Now, fast forward to 2020, the last couple of weeks have been filled with millions of rands stolen, PPE tenders going wrong, and a leave of absence. The Hawks Corruption Unit arrested 5 employees of KZN Premier Sihle Zigalala's office. The 5 also appeared in the Durban Commercial Crimes Court. Now, this is just an example of swift action that South Africans have been longing for. Could this possibly be the year where we actually see those implicated being held accountable? Vanessa, what's your take?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's a step into the right direction. You know, I'm glad that the government are finally holding people accountable, we're responsible, and the interests of South Africa. But I want to take this with a grain of salt because I know it's one thing to arrest officials, it's another now to have them face jail time. So I'm just going to wait for the end results, see what happens, and then decide.
Okay, Ivanashe?
From a Zimbabwean's perspective, I am impressed by how the South African government is swift in taking matters into their own hands. That is admirable in the sense that they are leading the way. They are kind of like inspiring, or rather, kind of like a jibe to the Zimbabwean government. Yo, guys, put your shit together. But anyway, coming back home, to a greater extent, is good. It is good because we are now seeing Kuti, the Department of Justice through through their bodies, they are doing something on the ground. But I am quite concerned, Kuti, the flow, agency,
Yeah.
because if they are able to meet that part, Kuti, let's take for instance, if Ainache has been found guilty of a PPE scandal, let's take for instance 3, 4, 5 months he has been found guilty. If that's the case, so be it. So the time factor over my side.
You want to see the action, yeah. All right, spokesperson to the president, Kusela Diko, and Gauteng MEC Bandile Masuku have been put under the spotlight for their role in a 125 million rand PPE tender, which is allegedly linked to King Mazikane Thandisizwe Diko. Now, do you guys think all these tender scandals and the most important need, that being PPE, not being provided to doctors and nurses who need it the most, could this affect the ANC's votes in 2024? Koketso, what's your take?
And I think majority now of like young people won't really vote for ANC. That's if they do vote. So I'm thinking in the long run, yeah, it will affect that. Because I mean, we can't have confidence in a government that fails us. We're scared of our future. Climate change that needs to be addressed. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. So we really need like a president that's really going to stand around, ministers that really actually carry out their duties and serve the people, be public servants as they are. So yeah, that's all for me.
Agreed. Session?
I don't think anything will ever change in the country for a long time. I think ANC will still be the ruling party for a long time. Tenders right now are a problem, but I mean, they've said when they started, they said they're going to, service delivery is going to be our top priority. But now how many years have they been in power and that hasn't been delivered properly? So I think with tenders, it's the same thing. I think there's not going to be a real change with this because it's always going to happen in South Africa. It's always going to happen. So that's my point of view. I think nothing's going to change. People are still going to vote for ANC.
I think we're also a bit scared to vote for any other alternative. It's sort of choosing the better devil at this stage. But yeah, Vanessa, you mentioned you wanted to ask us a question.
Yes, so I have a question, and anyone can ask this. I just wanted to know, would it be best for us to elect certain individuals into a position rather than just one party and they make the decisions for us? Because I feel for me, it would be best for us to just vote or elect individual people in certain positions as there's transparency between both us and the government. So I just want to hear everyone's take or a person's take on this.
I don't think any party or any person from each party can live with each other in head of state. They can't even live with each other in parliament. So how are you going to put different people in one place to rule a country? It's going to be chaos. It's going to be like Hunger Game type stuff, where we'll all go and kill each other for money. That's the thing. That's weird.
President Cyril Ramaphosa recently appointed a committee of 6 ministers who will all file all known procurement tenders and contracts handed out by the department. The aim of this investigation is to see where the money has gone and who has been spending it irresponsibly. Are we always going to have to set up inquiries, committees year after year to investigate the misuse of public funds? Or should we just look at our processes in awarding these tenders?
So for me, I think it's just best we look at the processes. It saves money, it saves time. Maybe we can have like people external people looking into the processes and evaluating, the amount spent when you gather up these tenders, or just evaluating the relationship between the big companies and. So I just think it's best that, you look at the processes rather instead of going into inquiries. It saves us a lot of time, saves up a lot of money because it's very expensive going into these inquiries. So yeah, that's my take.
I'm going to propose the Singapore Council.
Okay.
Like what Singapore did, how it controlled its own corruption in the 70s. They just came up with a bill. Any top official who is going to be found being corrupt is going to face a hefty fine. Like, I do appreciate, well, let's take, for instance, how China handles its own corrupt officials. Though it is under scrutiny, but corruption should be dealt first with the persons at the top. If we find, if the president is corrupt, let us hold him to account. If he is not found able to lead the country, it's best for him to submit his letter of resignation based on the fact that this individual, Mang Mang, has committed corruption, and that person does not stand in to lead a certain portfolio or a government or any other department. That's my take.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think there's someone that once said, we do not understand, ANC doesn't understand what is guilty or not guilty. So I feel like if the ANC gets a line of what is guilty and not guilty, then corruption will start getting effected out. I mean, there was an interview on ENCA with Mr. Pule, and he said because he's a freedom fighter, we overlooked that, and that's just weird to me.
We should also not forget, having said all of that, that these comrades are freedom fighters in their own name and right. So sometimes,
and that does not condone corrupt activities, whether you're a freedom fighter or not. That does not condone corrupt activities. I can't believe you actually said that.
Well, I was saying that in the context of encouraging you to go and look at the report on how the ANC shall have resolved on these matters. But you see, Shahan, I wouldn't want to be sidetracked. We are dealing with the issues of COVID-19 and how the ANC is responding to some of these acts of grand corruption, and reassuring the people of South Africa that our response on COVID-19 is really about saving lives, and that we will act against we have encouraged our government to act against any wrongdoing associated with the fight or undermining the fight against COVID-19.
Freedom fighter, that means he can get away with anything.
Yes.
So once that line, but that doesn't make sense. You're a freedom fighter, okay, you did something good for the country, but now in this time you can't do that and expect to get away with it.
And the thing is, they do know. It's just the abuse of their power. That's all it is. They're very aware of all these acts. What is wrong? What is right? It's just an abuse of power.
Have the Prevention and Combat what act, Corruption Act. So I think if there's an act in place, people should know what's wrong and not what's right and what's wrong. Easy stuff.
I definitely agree with everyone that the government should face heavy consequences, pay hefty bills, for their wrongdoings. But I just, the government, for some reason, they're above the law. A lot of things they get away with a lot. So for me, it's just now they really just have to pay money, chankura. But then other than that, that's all I can say.
They have to go through the process of having to. They know the act. Everyone knows that you're not meant to deal with spokesperson. I think they said she knew very well that they weren't meant to do business with the husband. They knew that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the solution would be definitely in the processes that undergo in such cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we can all agree that we need to look at the processes. Ivanaje?
Well, I think maybe the persons whom we are appointing, we need to pay attention to their background, in the sense that, let's take for instance, you are going to appoint Ivanaje for running the Department of Basic Education or Department of Health, right? We need to know his background, the people who are around him, to avoid nepotism. So basically, what we need to do is we need the legislative bodies, that is our MPs, the parliament, to come up with a bill where, in my view, I would propose to call it the transparency bill, whereby as an individual who's running a certain portfolio, you must declare, my name is Ivanaje, I am this age, this, so that we know the tenders that are going to be given or handed out in the future, are they not going to be given to my comrades and friends? So we have to give to independent persons whom we know they are going to do the job right.
Thank you for engaging in the journey of corruption, looking at how far we have come and what needs to be changed. Be sure to catch News Infusion next week Wednesday at 12 p.m.